Okay, looks like we're clear. Oh, I have a message on my screen saying it's live streaming.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's up there.
Okay,
Good.
okay. All right, we're returning to our regular session of the prison board meeting for February. And the next item on the agenda is the personnel report. Are there any questions on the personnel report? If not, we'll entertain a motion to accept it.
I'll make that motion, Tony. Rocky.
Okay,
Chris, second.
okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. We'll now move on to old and new business. Warden?
Okay, under old business, first thing I have are the fingerprinting fees. We got to a point now that the last thing we had to look at was speaking to the juvenile probation department because there is a $25 fee that the juvenile court office charges for any juvenile offenders. I spoke with Jim Dodson, the chief juvenile probation officer, in regards to this. This was a fee that was set up by that office and the courts and not by prison board at all. And they are recommending that it remain the same. And if there are any further questions on it, that, board members could reach out to Jim for any clarification.
Okay, so my recollection is that we tabled this from our last meeting to get some more information.
Yes.
Okay. And my recollection also was that the board voted to move forward, but then took another motion to hold implementing that until we receive more information. So are we prepared now to go back to the original motion?
So I think the question, Tony, if I recall correctly, and I really forget the figures, but I think there's something like about $250,000 in this account. I don't know if I'm plus or minus. I really don't know. And that's been generated with the fees that are currently in place. And I think that the question that the board had to discuss further or make a decision on, is there really a need to increase the fees based upon the fact that the fees seem to be more than covering the expenses of the operation of the live scan system? Now, if the board is intending to do some kind of capital improvements, to basically maybe open another room, furnish it or something like that requires additional expenses, then may there be a justification for increasing the fees. I think someone had mentioned that the fingerprinting machine itself may need to be replaced in the near future. I don't recall exactly what the status of that is, but I think the board basically said, let's just, take a breathing room here and see, is it really worthwhile increasing the fees based upon what they've generated up to this point and what they're being used for? That's sort of the way I recall our last meeting.
Hey, Judge, and just to add on to that, we did have somebody here a couple weeks ago that updated the computer system with some software to get it up to the Windows 10 operating system. And from conversations with him, I have learned that it was approximately 2 years ago that the system was replaced. And with this upgrade that they did with the software, we're looking at probably another 4 or 5 years until the system would have to be replaced again. So, we definitely have a few years, till it would have to be replaced at this point.
So I'm looking at the minutes from the last meeting, and it appears that the motion that was made by the controller was to stop taking live scan fees at the prison, and it was passed. But then there was a second motion to suspend implementing the single flat fee for fingerprinting until the matter could be reviewed. And that motion passed. So it appears as though there was a previous meeting where the amount of the live scan fee was approved. Is that correct, Warden?
Yes, I believe 2 months ago, it was originally approved to change it to the $150. And then last month when we talked, once we found that there was, an excess possibly of $250,000 or so in this account, maybe that we have to rethink that, because these monies can only be used for the live scan operation and nothing else. So, there's definitely plenty of money, in there for an upgrade to the system. I believe when it was upgraded, 2 years ago or so, I think it was about somewhere between $15,000-$20,000 to replace the machine at that time. So it's, yes, is that a decent chunk of change? But for the fact of the amount of money that we have in that fund, it kind of almost seems that it is pretty much self-sufficient with the fee structure that we have right now.
So it would appear to me that we would need a motion to retain the current fee as it is, if that's what the intention of the board is. Is that correct?
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
This is Chris, second.
All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Okay, motion carries. So at this point, the live scan fees will remain the same, but there was a previous motion that they will not be collected at the prison, correct, Warden?
Correct.
Okay.
I understood that. I understood that as well. That's true.
Okay, all right.
Okay, and then the final thing I have under old business is the roof scan. I had emailed the findings of that out to the board probably about a week or so ago. And with the 4 roofs that we have here, it was found that there was very little water damage to the insulation. Roughly 2 of the roofs have about 6 areas where there's water damage, where the insulation would need to be replaced down to the deck at those areas. With that being said, I did speak to the individuals from Tremco yesterday. I had invited Larry Sinicola, for the meeting too, that was done via Zoom. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it on there. But we're looking at right now is that the roof would be able to be wouldn't have to be a total gut job and redo, that we could go with a restoration on the roofs. The biggest thing that would maybe be a hiccup with that is we are looking for the original plans and stuff of the facility to see if there is any conduit that lays in between that insulation and the roof decking. What we've seen so far, it kind of seems like it's underneath the roof decking, but we're looking for those drawings to make sure that there aren't any areas where any conduit may be in between the insulation and the roof decking. So in a case like that, if we would find some areas that it would possibly need a total, redo. The individuals from Tremco are, more than happy to, come to next month's meeting and speak to the board if anybody is interested. And at this point, we're just looking to see what we want to do. Does this need to be put out on bids, or some type of professional services contract with them? I don't know what the board would look to do at this time.
Go ahead.
No, I think like what my concern was, I looked at the different areas, and if it is that them 6 areas are the bad 6 or 8 would be possible, but what is, like, I don't know if they discussed anything, and I'm sorry I couldn't be on that either, Tim, but, like the subdecking that's on the area that's good. Did that show up under the scan that, the subdecking that's going, I mean, is there plywood or something down, or the insulation on top of this? Is there a cement ceiling in that? And I think of the scope of the work, or the vents, the flashing does not look good. Are they going to properly flash? The vents look like they're rusted. Not that we sign up for a $200,000 or an $800,000 contract and we wind up adding another $400,000 or $500,000 on it, that maybe we should have redid the whole thing.
Yeah.
What is their determination in that?
What we really didn't get into the meat and potatoes of all that. Something I really don't understand either, but I know, they had talked about roof drains and things of that nature. They would replace, the existing, caps and stuff like that for roof drains and different things. I know there's actually conduit that runs across the top of the roof deck now for the gas lines that go to our rooftop units. And they did say that the brackets that those lines rest on would all be replaced. Another thing, our lightning suppression system runs on the roof decking as well as all across the outer edges of the roof and stuff. So, all that stuff would be moved. The roof, the areas where we do have the water issues with the insulation would be, cut out and replaced down to the original decking and built up. And from what I understand, the, original rubber roof would still remain, and there would be like a 2 or 3 part system of putting a series of coats on top of that. So, like I said, it may be a little better to maybe invite them to next month's meeting, so you guys would have a little better understanding of to what they're doing, or what would be done. They also mentioned the areas of where concrete wall would show that comes down and meets the area, the seams of the roof, where that would be kind of repainted and sealed, to make sure that that doesn't leak, where if the roof is good, then, we have problems with the concrete. So, and, they also did talk about, and which would be an extra charge, is kind of the atrium that we have over our lobby in the front entrance of the facility. That would be an extra. I mean, right now that doesn't leak or anything, but they can definitely tell that it's been recaulked, and some of the glass and stuff there doesn't look the greatest. So that could be an extra expense if we wanted to go that route. But you said for the most part, a lot of the flashing and stuff like that around the edges of the concrete areas looked like it was still good and wouldn't have to be replaced either. So, they really didn't give me a firm number or anything. They, said it definitely wouldn't be the, 1.9 million for a total restoration. And, they may even get to the point where they would cap, a restoration at, not to exceed $1 million or something like that. But, just depending on what we would find, obviously, and you never know once you start getting into something, where things could go, obviously. But
yeah, and I mean, I think it would be a good thing to have them come so that everybody could hear it at the next meeting. And I do have some questions. Maybe they can work on them answers before the meeting. I mean, not that we have to keep extending for 4 or 5 months to get this done. And I know there were issues, like they said, the flashing was probably inappropriate. I mean, it should have been a little bit larger. So I think all them things got to be addressed. And I even, like my question with the warranty, like they had the same warranty on refurbishing as a new roof. I mean, I would have to have that explained to me a little bit more because like I said, you still have sub-decking below. I mean, I'm thinking like, is that gonna last forever? I mean, insulation crushes over the years. Is that something that, you know, in 10 years from now, are we gonna look at maybe something to be going bad from underneath after we replace the whole top?
Mm-hmm.
So I think those are, maybe I can maybe send you some of these questions again, and maybe they can be a little bit better prepared with a dollar amount. You know what I mean? Give it to us that, okay, this is X amount of dollars to replace them. You know, the flashing, the, you know, everything. What would be, like I said, I don't want this to drag out till September. You know what I mean, Tony?
Right.
I think this is something we have to sort of like get on before something does happen and ruin something else yet.
Gordon, so I think what the commissioner is saying is that it's a good idea to have these individuals present something to the board, and I think that's a good idea. What I would also suggest is that they have any visual aids, that, you know, photographs or whatever that they took as part of their evaluation, so that the board members can have a better idea of, you know, when they're talking about the flashing and the rubber roof and all that, so that we can get a better look at it. I mean, this is quite a big expenditure.
Oh, absolutely. Right.
So, and again, I agree with the commissioner that, you know, we don't want to have this thing drag out. So Commissioner Arner, if you could get whatever questions you have as a contractor out there to this vendor, and if we can have the vendor work on some visual aids in their presentation at our meeting next month, I think that would be very beneficial.
You know, I have about 6-8 questions here, so
Okay.
hopefully something that, at least for the presentation, we should be able to get close to what the dollar amount maybe might be that we're gonna need, or what we're looking for.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any further comments from any of the board members? Okay, Ward.
Okay. That was everything I had under old business.
Okay, so I have 2 items yet. One is the prison study. I know the controller asked for an update on that. I did speak with the individuals who we are working with to do the prison study. They are in the process of receiving their vaccinations and would prefer to be fully vaccinated before they begin their work. I agree. And it looks like we're probably about 6 to 8 weeks out. And then the controller also asked for an update on the body scanner. Is there anything you can give us, Warden, if it's in use, if it was fruitful in any kind of scans?
Right now, we have 2 people that are fully certified to use it. We have not utilized it as of yet, but now that we have all the staff back, I am setting up training again to get the rest of our operators certified. So we will be taking care of that very shortly. We're setting up some Zoom training to get the rest of the operators certified, and then we're going to get this thing up and running.
Okay.
So I'm hoping, you know, prior to next meeting, we should be using this already.
Okay, could you just put that on for old business for next meeting then?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything up further for old business. Anything for new business, Warden?
I have nothing under new business, Sheriff.
Okay. Anyone else under new business? All right, we'll move on to correspondence
Nothing.
and the solicitor's report.
Nothing additional.
All right. Is there any further business today before the prison board? Hearing none, we will move to adjournment. Thank you very much.
Thank you.